The views, thoughts, and opinions on this podcast belong only to the hosts and the guests. They don't necessarily reflect any organization or sponsors connected to us. We aim to keep things accurate, but everything you hear is shared for information, conversation, and entertainment. We're going to dive into good laughs, tough talks, and that genuine feel that you came for. So get comfortable, relax into the vibe, and let the moment unfold. This is Keep It Clean. Lock in.
Because if that ain't saying it now, did you always say it? Then two, you saying it now.
Is this needed? Is it accessible? Does it change up everything? What's y'all thoughts? They make any of it. There's a game that's second place. Yeah, second place. There's a second place.
Tell me why I'm watching a game on ESPN. One of the banners in the background is YouTube TV for the game, but we can't even watch it. How does that make sense?
$20. I don't want no $20. I want the game.
And every time you see me, I keep it clean like a coaster.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Back. We back highly favored. We back blessed. We back black. We back strong. You know what I'm saying? We still here. Welcome back to the Keep It Clean platform. We appreciate y'all being here, man. We here with another batch of dirty topics. We are here to inform you. We are here to entertain you. We are here to make you laugh. We might touch on some tears a little bit, but most importantly, we're going to keep it a buck. We're going to keep it a bean, and we're going to keep it clean. I'm joined by two fellow wisdom brothers. That's what we're going to call them. We're going to call them the wisdom brothers, right? Every time there's been a couple times I posted clips of y'all and people pointed out the grays and the beards, and we don't call y'all the wisdom brothers. You feel what I'm saying? They hated on y'all. Y'all weren't wrong. In y'all's respective clips, you weren't wrong.
They can't see the gray in your beard. That's why.
Yeah, I only got two
wisdom brothers.
Yeah, I only got two of them though. Like if I trim the beard, sometimes it come back gray and sometimes it don't. I only got two. They haven't been consistent. I'm trying to get, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to get them there. You feel me? But Brother Mel, Brother Bodega, how you two doing?
Hey man, you know, today's a good day. It's beautiful, sunny outside. Depending upon where you at, you know, everything is love. What can I say?
Any day I'm 6 feet above ground is a good day.
That's fair.
Alhamdulillah, you are correct.
That is fair, man. Well, y'all know where to follow us, but if you don't, please peek down at the bottom of the screen. And if you're listening, hear me out. YouTube, TikTok, and Twitter at Keep It Clean Show. Instagram at the Keep It Clean Show. We have appreciated all of your feedback. I don't want y'all to think that it's going unnoticed. What I'm doing is trying to put together some of the best comments, some of the best clips, and we're going to try to address y'all. You know, you talk to us as we get over here and address all these types of shenanigans that go on. So follow us on those pages and trying to get more active. We trying to get in tune with y'all. We have a lot in store coming forward, but you know how it is. Before we get to the solos, my good brothers, man, what has your past? It's been 2 weeks since we put out anything. What's your past 2 weeks look like? How do you feel? Where y'all standing at today, man?
Ooh, it has been 2 weeks. I think it's been a month and change since the last time I've been up here.
Yeah.
You know, life is a funny way of forcing you into action, right? You know, I've had some personal changes go over here, like on my side, and so the last 2 weeks have just been about adapting, deciding, executing, and you know, showing up where I can. So
peace to that. How's that going?
Oh nah, bro, we're good for the most part. You know what I'm saying? Plotting some moves. I don't know what my next home location is going to be in regards to like state-wise, but got a couple options on the table. You know, might be joining y'all boys in Texas. I don't know. We'll talk about that. You know, but yeah, man, it's been a good time.
But Bodega coming to Texas, man. We gonna be on high alert. What was it? Delta Orange. Man, Bodega come to Texas, man. It's gonna be a problem. We're gonna have a lot of in-person pods, bro. I'm gonna pull up on you the same way I pull up on Jamel, but someone else that's looking to be a world traveler. Ain't that a coincidence? Brother Mel.
Yeah, man. Like the brother Bodega said, man, just a lot of moving parts right now. But I'm thankful, you know. Ray, and his family have been helping me out. I in touch with my godson, who I haven't spoken to in 4 years because of incidents, things going on with his mother. So, but me and his dad, super cool, and we're making moves so I can spend time with him, and you and your family really helped out as far as me getting in touch with him and just traveling and showing him more of the world, not just that little bit of Indiana. So I appreciate help from brothers. I think oftentimes Black men don't like asking for help. I think we're brought up that way, to just be independent, do it on your own.
Yeah.
Even when you hit a wall, you hit your head on a wall a couple times, and what do? Instead of asking for help, you continue hitting your head on the wall. And oddly enough, I didn't have to ask. So Ray just reached out, he and his wife, and it's like, yo, man, whatever we can do to help you out, to make those moves happen. And now, things are in motion. So I'm excited, to say the least.
Mm-hmm. See, Bodega, it's real. That Secretary of Defense thing that y'all assigned to me, I'm making it happen in motion. Jamel's had to put up with some of the wildest thoughts just more freely recently, but you know what I'm saying? So you let me filter them out, I'll get us on the right path. I just gotta say it out loud and let it linger for a little bit. You dig what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I'm in the same boat as y'all, man. I appreciate y'all sharing for the last couple of weeks. It's been cool tapping in. Mom birthday just passed this past weekend, so we got to celebrate her older brother's birthday. Bowling has kept me grounded in certain moments, man. I just want to give a quick PSA, man, especially for Black men. If you need a spot to just release some anger, nothing like throwing a 10 to 16 pound ball at a bunch of whiteheads as hard as you can.
With rednecks.
with rednecks. You know what I'm saying? No, it just lets you release some of that stress, and then when you start making it look pretty, some of us want to finesse it. You're gonna curve it down the lane. You don't want to let them know your next move as the ball get down and you know what I'm saying, just kind of upside the pin's head, man. Find you a stress reliever, man. But between that, kicking it with the folks, Jamel's been there for some of these trips, running back and forth, getting the kids to their grandparents, and just quiet as kept, trying to stay low. There's been a lot of heat brought to the community, as y'all both have seen in these recent times, and we didn't ask for it. But we're gonna get into that. But other than that, man, Father's Day coming up, so Juneteenth coming up, so y'all embrace us for this episode as we go forward. But I'm glad y'all doing well. What we gonna do? Slide straight into these solos, man. Get it off your chest. Keep it clean. Who would like to go first? Hey, and Bodega, I see you, man. We accentuate up.
You know what I'm saying? Getting
H2O and thriving.
Getting the black and red off.
Yeah. Hydration at this platform, man. Which one of y'all want to go first for the solo?
Go for it, Bodega.
Yeah, Mel got it.
Well, while y'all decide, since y'all can't go for it, I'll take that opportunity since y'all both fumbled the ball. You look like a jump ball, and both of y'all missed. I'm a big sports guy, as we know, right? This isn't a sports podcast. It's just more so addressing the nation. We're in the middle of hosting all of the nations in the world here, and also in the midst of a war simultaneously, whether or not they want to call it that. And while we have all these nations tweeting about us, people going to Buc-ee's, people finally having American food for the first time. There's some German dude going crazy viral because he's updating almost every hour or so. He finally went to a Waffle House for the first time, talking about he gonna come back. And I was like, you must have been in the nice one. I don't know which city you in, but it couldn't be Atlanta because I know Atlanta's hosting.
He in Atlanta because he just went to Magic City too.
Oh, word?
The pepper wings.
Oh, that's crazy, right? Oh, so he having a good time. But I say that to say the amount of unawareness is stunning right? Like we know some people don't, or not some. It seems like a lot of people just don't know what's going on in general. So a lot of their ideals are just based off of half schemed, regurgitated thought process that somebody's third cousin, fourth aunt gave them, whatever. These games are happening in major cities. We got buses cracking down, getting pulled over, they're getting detained. These are players and staff of these teams that we bidded as a country to get them over here. We're paying our tax dollars to help support this and get whatever revenue it is. And I could go on a tangent about how crooked FIFA is, but that's international. That's the world's problem. This right here, though, we don't see nothing happening in Mexico, or Mexico City specifically. We don't see nothing happening in Toronto. But I think it was either Uruguay or Paraguay today, the whole bus pulled over. Players standing outside as the dogs and them go through their bags and stuff like that. And most Americans don't even know we hosting this world tournament. I don't understand why we're so dense. I don't have a conclusion to this. I'm just more so getting shocked in the moment as this goes along. We're negotiating piss poor deals that we didn't have to be in the first place, while spending more tax dollars over here for hosting all the world's countries. And then to celebrate this quote unquote 250th birthday, more tax dollars going to the White House to host the UFC event while all the fighters are also complaining. I don't know what's happening no more. Y'all stay safe. That's it. I don't have nowhere to go with this yet. The thoughts haven't formulated, but that's where I'm at on it so far.
Shout out to Trump for keeping America great. Shout out. Good job, dude.
Greatly disappointing.
Harassing athletes from other countries. Good job. Umpires. Shout out.
And with that being said, despite his buffoonery, I am rooting for every African country. I usually do anyways, but I need to put that out there. I don't care who you are. Congo got their first goal in World Cup history today. Shout out to the DR Congo, right? And they tied Cristiano Ronaldo in Portugal. Congo has never won a game. They've always lost, but they took a draw. I'm with that. Shout out.
History there between Congo and Portugal too. I don't know who was doing the matchups, but I think Ghana played against England. Congo was playing against Portugal, and then is it Nigeria is playing against France, or Senegal is playing against France or somebody like that?
Yeah,
I don't know what I don't know what the FIFA. I'm used to the FIA because I watch Formula One, but like, yeah, somebody over there cooking. I don't know why they doing that, but somebody over there cooking.
The group stages are supposed to be randomized, right? But I noticed some of the matches currently right now, they're in the round robin phase before they go to the elimination brackets, right? Senegal was holding on initially with France. It was 1-1. They called a goal back that I didn't think that they should call back, but France is also one of the tournament favorites. And they're all African. That's what pissed me off the most when I watched them. Even in the last World Tournament, you're playing for France. They had 11 Negroes across the field. This nigga's name is Mbappe, bro. He's not French at all. They got they have the continent of Africa united under a French flag. Some play for England, some play for Germany. I've seen a few of them on the Netherlands. So I say that the Africans are still winning, even though they lost to Argentina last time. That was tough after they did all the blackwashing, if you will. But I'm on a tangent. y'all go on with y'all's. Do better. Be aware. I'm not saying watch soccer, but you got all these people in your country. Go outside, touch grass, hug some culture. Lord knows it doesn't exist here. Go hug some culture when you got some foreigners in town, man. You European Americans, go touch bases with your cousins. Go touch bases with your cousins, man. They here. Germans, Italians, all of them. Go touch bases, bro. One of y'all go, man.
All right. My Keep It Clean today is pretty simple. White people. This one is specifically for you, especially our white TikTok commenters who love us. You know what I'm saying? They love us so much. I don't even know how they find us, but they love us. Hey, buddies, fellas, pals. We know what that American flag communicates on your truck or car. We know that. It's not military pride. We like it's okay. It's okay. You can give up ghosts there. Anytime that y'all talk about, race and politics doesn't have to be involved. we know what you're saying. Okay, I understand that it takes y'all a while to keep up with AAVE and Ebonics and you know what I'm saying. However the case, right? You know what I'm saying. Y'all got fuck around and find out y'all really loving that saying, but we speak y'all language. We know exactly what you niggas are communicating. Y'all let that Trump 250 celebration. Y'all got UFC and drunk rednecks on the White House lawn talking about we can leave politics out of this. This is just a great time for America. We know what you're saying, okay? It's fine. It's okay. We just rather you be outwardly racist. You know what I'm saying? You ain't got to try to sugarcoat shit. Like it's all right. We know what you communicate. It's okay. It's all right. We don't fuck with you anyway, but like at least stand on the shit that you actually talking about. That's it. That's all I got.
I like to give a shout out to Trump for this Iran deal.
It's cooked.
Said no one ever, because this is horrible. Everything he's doing, it costs us billions, not millions, billions, a number I could never count to my entire life. That's how much it cost us for this so far 110-day war. Like Ray said, I mean, Trump was calling the war at the beginning, and then he found out, wait, I can't declare war without Congress, so let me call it a conflict, a skirmish. He has hurt us significantly in the world eyes. The same way Ukraine has made Russia look weak, Iran made us look weak. And all that blustering that Trump did, Iran told him to eat a D. There we go. Keeping it clean. Eat a D. So this is it's just, we're in the twilight zone right now, man. Everything around us is ass backwards. Keep America great, make America great, all that BS, dude. All he's saying is, let's go back to 1940, all right, when black people had no rights, when women were in the kitchen cooking. That's where I want to take it, And even though they call us niggas, as someone who has been all over the world, especially in the Middle East, they call them niggas too, sand niggas. So I'm not surprised that Trump bit the Netanyahu fishing reel, and he got reeled into that war and reeled us all into it. And now we have an even worse deal going on. And Trump is kissing Tehran's ass. Like all their leadership, this regime is so much better than the other regime. It's the same regime, my guy.
He's trying to get out of that. He's trying his best to get out of it. It almost looks like the United States realized what was happening and is trying their best to backpedal and get out of a war that they know that they can't win, and then also realizing just what type of time Israel is on. And it's like they're consciously aware, but maybe they just don't acknowledge it. Because Netanyahu was like, bro, I don't care nothing about no peace deal. What are you talking about? Yep. Like I'm gonna go knock over this school. I'm gonna go get them. I don't acknowledge no peace deal with nobody. And we up in the poll. Like it's just nasty, man.
Israel doesn't care what America wants, and Iran doesn't care what America wants, and that's the end of it. That's the short version of the story. No one cares what we want. No one cares what Trump wants. Mr. Art of the Deal. No one cares.
Oh man. Really quickly, okay. For our followers who watch, pay attention, all these other kind of things, blah blah blah. This is very serious for you. Please take a look at your 401ks. Very, very please look at your 401ks, Fidelity, Charles Schwab, all the investor holding accounts, all that kind of stuff. Somehow United States of America allowed a white South African with a body built like Tesla Cybertruck become the first trillionaire in the world. And if you think the SpaceX IPO is really that valuable or anything like that, there's three IPOs coming up: OpenAI, Claude, and then SpaceX. None of them are producing nearly the type of funds that that justify their evaluations, right? But more specifically to that, they're deliberately using your 401k investment funds to push these IPOs through. If you need more information on what that means just 401ks, when they're bundling accounts together, they don't really care about what the actual investment is. They just care about the value of it. They're using it to push this SpaceX IPO. When was the last time you seen advertisements for IPO? You've never seen that. You've never seen that before. So check your investments accounts, make sure they are where they want to be, because we made a trillionaire off the back of everyday working Americans.
What's crazy? We can sum up all three of our little solos. Simply put, these niggas can't read, man. Like for everything, because I hear you, check your 401k, but that also requires a talent to read. And I think one of the biggest pieces that we're running into, a lot of what we mentioned, every piece other than the topics that we're eventually going to get to tonight, Black people have been minding their business for the last year and a half, haven't said nothing, weren't looking for nothing, didn't want no type of smoke. We in wars. It's funny what you said, man. The Iran inviting America to the Frank stand isn't even halal. That's the craziest part about this whole piece, man. They telling you to go eat food that they wouldn't even eat. You feel me? That's true. America loves sports. As great as we are at sports, you want to make America great again. We already nice there. You don't know what's happening in your own states. These are major cities, major LA, Atlanta, Houston, Dallas, right? Major cities. To Jamel's point, man, we over here on the UFC lawn doing what? That was 60 million taxpayer dollars.
I don't even know how they got the World Cup, to be honest. But that's a different story. That's a whole different story.
Yeah, man. Get a book. I guess before we get into the topics, let me ask this. I know this is a larger question. Probably one of those that we have to come together as a community and ask. We part of the community. I'll just lobby it out there. In this current position that we're in, do we start trying to incorporate anybody else? Because I would say, outside of a few things that have popped up, we've been all right minding our business, but we also know that eventually somebody's going to knock at the door or try to kick it in, so we got to be prepped for that. Are we still in-house for the time being? Because I also know 2026, we got a lot of midterms going on. In certain states, we have legislation coming up in certain states that everybody's lobbying for votes, especially down here in Texas. Where are we at on that? Just really brief before we get into it, because I think we already kind of set the tone of what we're thinking, but I could be wrong.
You said, do we include anybody else? You mean like,
do we include anybody else?
Man, listen, I have a very bleak view on everything. I ain't gonna hold you up. They outside right now doing reading challenges with no cards.
You talking about the black dude that's been going around asking us, like, read this sentence out loud, and they've been fumbling. Yeah. Or you see the homie that was asking like where these locations are, and I think there was one video in particular. He asked them, where is this city in what country? And they were in the city that he was asking about, and they got it wrong.
And it's all jokes and games. It's all funny, but like, this is how people are mobilizing their time and their talent, right? Like, we making videos about niggas can't read, and like, it's
okay.
It don't matter. It don't matter how many people you add. Like, it's cooked, bro. It's cooked.
I didn't remember the quote word for word. It's Martin Niemöller. But just to switch up a little bit, because you say, hey, when do we help out? Well, he said, first they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not socialist. Then they came for the unionists, and I did not speak out because I am not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I am not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. They came for the Hispanics, They came for the LGBTQ. They came for the poor. And that's not to say they didn't already come for Black people. We know that. They came for us. But eventually, we got to get off the sideline, and we do have to speak up eventually. Because once they get rid of all the Hispanics, and they're trying to, and they don't care what country you're from, they don't care. We're only going for the bad ones. That's a lie. We're going for all of them. They're going after the LGBTQ, and once they get rid of them, eventually it'll just be Black people, and they're going to come for us. So unfortunately, we have to defend everybody else. We've been doing it the entire time we've been in this country. When it comes to civil rights, we were on the forefront, but who did civil rights affect? Everybody else. Everybody else. When it came to voting rights, we were on the forefront, and who did voting rights affect? Everybody else. So it's almost like we have to lead the charge. We have no other choice. So eventually, we do have to say, all right, we get it, Hispanics, you voted this motherfucker in office. We're going to help you out. LGBTQ, we know you voted for this motherfucker because all you cared about was money. That's all you cared about. Oh, I'm rich. Yeah, I'm gay, but I'm rich. And now he's trying to, no, you can't be married no more. All right? No, we're going to take some of your money away. Eventually, we got to get off the sideline and we got to help everybody else out. Eventually, in my opinion.
I might be split, especially for what both of y'all just said. I'll make mine brief. I'm saying continue what we're doing and not be opposed to helping, but there should be tryouts before we just allow you. You know what I'm saying? Before if you come to us, because I'm looking at it as there isn't anything that we haven't tried to include anybody in historically. So until this most recent election occurred, this is probably the first time you've seen us, hey man, y'all good outside. And we just all went in the house respectively. So we made it to where you got to come to the door because y'all have been essentially doing that anyways. You've been making yourselves at home within the community, whether it be the cookout or the actual proverbial house itself. We excluded a lot of people. I've been on record numerous times. I'm not the greatest fan of the term POC, never have been. Personally, that's where I'm at. It's just colored people remix as far as I'm concerned, right? Colored people and people of color has always been historically racist all the way back to the late 1700s. That's how it was utilized in France. That's how it was utilized in England. I don't know who voted and agreed upon it. I didn't see any Black delegates or representatives that I was made aware of sitting at the table saying we all unify for the term people of color. I don't think that was something that we agreed to. They just kind of made the executive decision. And it's decisions like that in many of the sorts, minor, major, whatever the magnitude may be, that has created the certain place that we're in now. I do think we should be helpful. I also think that we should make anybody wanting to be a part of whatever movement we're a part of show that you can put in some work, right? You can't just come over here and freeload. This goes for the Latino community. This goes for the Middle Eastern and Indian community, because there's a lot of things that we're fully aware of. Asian community, white community. There's a lot of things that we're fully aware of that we have created, we have put out, we have produced. Had the conversation the other day. It's like, man, rap music isn't rap music. As a matter of fact, any type of Black music has always been pop music, because anytime we do it, it becomes popular, right? Jazz, rock and roll, rap, simple stuff like that. So there's multiple conversations that I feel like should be had for y'all's own group. One of my biggest takeaways from the election is we saw the percentages. It sounds like there's a lot of in-house conversations that other groups can be having the same way that Black people have been having. And based on those close margins of 60-40, 50-50, around that range, the 70-30s, that wasn't really an issue over here. There seems to be more people that you can talk to over there. I.e., for example, I always love to go with the biggest gainers of our movement, white women, right? Don't come to me or us because y'all lead a lot of these movements and examples. Don't come over here with us because Mima and Papa don't agree with what you're saying, and then you expect to come over here and not put in any work, but we make the same fight because you agree with us, quote unquote. But you already have a seat at that table that we're trying to get to, and you're running from the fight and then expecting somebody else to do it for you. That's what it feels like in a lot of these POC conversations to me. It was all fun and games whenever the elections were coming up. If you vote for Kamala, if you vote for her, you're supporting Israel because Trump wasn't going to bomb them. They're not going to bomb Palestine and anything like that. So if you vote for her, you're supporting this. And then what happened? It was all fun and games about whatever the N-word usage is and how blacks don't support the Latino community and everything. And then you went and voted for Trump. And what happened? Now it turned into we're not doing our part. Cool. We hear you. We've heard you. We've been listening. That's not the issue. I just think there should be a tryout. Show me you put in work, right? Especially we all read the same history books. Last I remember, the European American John Smith, whenever he first came over here and discovered Pocahontas and all them, he told them, you don't eat if you don't work. Why can't we keep that same mindset? Show me that you're willing to get dirty with it, whether it be you've at least shown that you could pick up a book, you can read, you can conversate, you getting outside appropriately the way. That's it. All I'm asking is, I'm not just giving out jerseys to be on the team if you can't put a ball in the basket. That's all I'm saying. That might be where I'm at on it.
I'm not mad at you.
You know?
Yeah, I'm not mad at that either. But I mean, I think more specifically, it takes more than just being able to put in work to show up. I'm trying to figure out, have you actually addressed, to your earlier point, have you actually addressed the internal conversations that you need to have with your people, right? Mm-hmm. I think we talked about them in the I guess like the political chat, but it's like a lot of y'all have deep-seated, racism against all of the diaspora. But specifically Black Americans. And so, it's a lot of this conversation of, you're not doing your part and, we need your help and, all this other assistance. And I agree with Jamel's point to a degree that, like, it's always us at the forefront and that's really the only way things get moved. But at the same time, it's what are we, are we doing these things and then receiving the short end of the stick from the people that we helped? Because that's what happened during the civil rights movement. White people or white women, they effectively gained the most from being able to vote. They gained the most from affirmative action. They gained the most from these things. And then the moment that they could abandon Black voices for the good of their race, for their white males upholding their former patriarchy, that's exactly what they did. They did it with the Trump administration. They did it with the Reagan administration. They did it with the Nixon administration. They did it with these are a Bush administration. These are very documented incidents amongst this group. And I mean, even with the Hispanics, I think it was like 54% of Hispanic males,
yep,
are who identified as some form of Latino, voted for President Trump in this last election and voted for the Republicans overall in this last election cycle. Y'all are having there's a lot of internal conversations that y'all need to have before you start addressing us about us joining forces and aligning with that, because every single time that y'all benefit from something that we do, you then immediately abandon us. And so I'm not really interested in the work and the hold hands. Of course, they can always do something if there's mutual interest, but if it is something that directly protects Black people, there's literally no one to be found. And so I'm not really interested in coming off the sidelines, besides that, our brothers and sisters apparently can't read and we making jokes about it. So there's a lot of internal conversations we need to have.
Not just us, but I mean, like Ray said, when it comes to reading, that extends to poor white people and white women also. They need to read.
Yeah,
because
but I
it,
don't
it,
care if white people can't read. Honestly,
it's
I
it,
just be
it
honest.
it is important. It is important that they learn to read also, because if they knew what was going on, if they knew how DEI affected them, because white women are affected in a more positive manner than black people are. Like it helps them out far more than it helps us. But they don't know that, because Trump and his administration says it only helps the blacks. It only helps the blacks. So they believe that because they don't read. So they need to get out and read also. But again, what did Trump say? I love the uneducated. I love them. And I understand why. Because they just go by whatever he says. Black people are they have an advantage due to DEI. So what do white people, but white women also, what do they say? Well, let's get rid of DEI. Let's get that gone. And then what happens to white women? What do you mean we don't have a job? What do you mean you replace me with a white guy? What do you mean? So they need to read too. They really do.
I would extend further for the black community specifically. When it comes to the reading, I think for those that do read, and for those that are somewhat informed, and for those that are willing to learn, I think the best thing that we could do for us is at least get our group to continue to follow the why question, because as long as you have someone guiding you towards like, why is it that he keeps saying it only benefits the blacks? Almost anytime the American system has presented something that is an issue with blacks, it usually was something that was beneficial, because whatever it is that we produce, every other race ends up capitalizing off of. So clearly it wasn't bad. It was just bad that we had it, which includes books, right? Which includes just a little bit of the knowledge. So the more educated we are, I want us to at least get to a point of understanding the risk more frequently. We have a general basis of certain things that we go through, but there's other pieces of it's like, all right, to this very conversation we're having now, you could be cool with it. You could be cool with anybody outside the race. You could be cool with people within the race. We, to Bodega's point, we want us to know how to read. We're making jokes of it. And at the same time, somebody pull that person aside, or those people. If you know you have a person at least similar to that in our group, because a lot of the times we get to places in our lives where our friend groups are similar to us. So we may not often be around people that don't know how to read. It only comes up on our timelines, while simultaneously all these other groups are trying to infiltrate our thought process and our actions, which makes it very difficult. I.e., here's my perspective. This is what I've been seeing. As someone that grew up in Texas, I was very familiar with the Latino community, everything down to the caste system, all the way down to immigration, blah, 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 it goes on, so on and so forth. This Cesar Chavez thing, they shook. Him being exposed for his sexual misconduct, he's like the hero of Mexicans. The hero. A simple book would have told you, even during his heyday, he was very much against illegal immigrants and was helping people round them up. That's not my issue. That's a thing that you need to pick up. I take that type of example and I bring it back over here for us. It's like, man, I don't think I've genuinely come across a black Trump supporter in real life. I'm not saying they don't exist. It's just a little bit more difficult. It's like I haven't been able to have that conversation myself. I don't know if it's a natural filtration system. I don't know if it's just maybe I'm not outside enough to where we don't cross paths. But in that moment, we know that they exist. We know that there's extensions of those people. We know that there's the kids that Bodega and I are talking about, that they're holding a note card. Just sound it out. And learning how to read it. In those moments, man, I look at it as more, if there is something that they're telling you don't do, which is crazy because I know it's like reverse psychology. If they're saying that it's bad for black people in a massive scale, use a little bit of curiosity. Just peek over there. Yeah. And with that being said, in every description of our videos, there is a cyber library within every description of the Keep It Clean videos, where it's accessed digitally to a bunch of books. Shout out to ATL Promise. A bunch of books. In every single description, there is a list of books. We could push it more, but the reading piece, I think to your point, Jamel, is like they could do that. Same thing what I'm saying with them learning about Caesar Chavez. Like you might have to figure it out because we've been at the highest danger level for a while. Until we can comfortably read amongst ourselves, I may not have the time to read to you right now. Right now, you know, Hooked on Phonics is cheap. That's how I summarize it. I got it for the kids right now. Hooked on Phonics, very cheap. I remember the commercials. It's some of us need that as adults. Some of us need that as adults. Reading is going to be the biggest key, but I appreciate y'all answering that question. With that, we're already set. Since we've been gone, we've had the results of the Karmelo Anthony case and South Carolina versus Rick Chow. Long story less long, both of them didn't go in a way that we wanted it to go, which we kind of predicted. But let's discuss how those things played out. We can get into some of the pieces of the reasoning, and let's build into the usual what now, but we can acknowledge the elephant in the room, and let's try to find something to where we can at least put a building block in place successfully, at least for us gentlemen here within the group, and figure out something that we could push forward to. So the first one that happened was the Rick Chow case out in South Carolina. Are you two somewhat familiar with what went on there?
Very familiar.
Very familiar.
Shout out
Okay.
to the local chat because very, very, very familiar. And I mean, to that point, like I definitely resonate and understand. You know, for the viewers, there are multiple keep it clean chats. There's a main chat. There are offshoots. There are sports chats. There's battle rap chats. I don't know if they're, you know, we would actually consider them keep it clean, but we do a lot of talking amongst ourselves. The greater like keep it clean universe. We have a lot of discussions throughout the week, right? And so, you know, there's a few brothers.
Really quick, I want y'all to process. He said we multiversal.
Yeah.
We Marvel, we DC, we all that. We Invincible, we multiversal. If I don't know it, one of them know it, and if we don't know it, one of them know it, and then we gonna circle back around somewhere. We all gonna get this information. That's why we telling y'all to read. We practice it, and I don't want y'all to think we just talk. We genuinely practice this on a regular basis. Not only do we talk on here, we talk in the chat, and these two gentlemen can verify themselves. I'm a believer of go and touch grass and go touch people. I'll pull up. You don't have to worry. That's the type of men that we are. But continue. My bad. Sorry. Go ahead.
Nah, you are right. Nah, but certainly, you know, there was a lot of opinions and emotions expressed in that chat and in regards to the South Carolina versus Rick Chow. And though I understood and resonated with them, I did not have the capacity to express them in the same way. And even now, I don't really have the capacity to express them in the same way. In my mind, oftentimes jumps to, well, what was the expectation? You know, what was the actual expectation, right? When you look at the perspective of the American dream, and this piece is this part is very important because how it's viewed by Americans and more specifically white Americans is very important. When you look at it from the view of the American dream, here you have a immigrant, right? Immigrant Chinese owner who, you know, has set up a business in, you know, in an underprivileged environment, providing services to an underprivileged group, you know, and providing for his family and all those kind of things. And you have to protect what you own in the good old state of South Carolina. And that's exactly how that played out, right? Like that interpretation of the American dream of, you know, the small business owner, blah 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 blah. Caucasians love eating that up, right? They like Americans, the American political system, the judiciary system, they love eating those type of things up. And so Of course, he was able to win with the defensive. I was fearing for my life, right? Of course, we're not going to talk about the conditions of like what led to that young boy potentially carrying a gun, or what conditions led to him needing water so much so that he felt like he may have had to take it, right? We're not going to talk about any of those conditions. None of those conditions matter, right? Because what matters is protecting the supposed small business owner. Now, it doesn't matter that these small business protections and all these other kind of things are being stripped away, and that these people who pay the taxes with the small businesses are being dragged over coals to make people like Elon Musk trillionaires. But none of that matters, right? Like none of that context matters. And so I was very, very disappointed in the decision. Not surprised in the least bit about the decision. And honestly, it left me reflecting on the America that our parents grew up in, and the America that, like, the survivors of the civil rights movement and World War II and Vietnam and Korea, the America that they grew up in. And ultimately, it led me to a direction of just understanding my parents more, understanding my grandparents more, in the sense of like the boomers and the silent generation, which they weren't silent at all, watched a series of their generation be killed or executed either through wars that they did not sign up to fight, or through the betterment of our people, and watching them being executed. I can fully, understand you just got to sit down, go to school, shut up, and like stay safe. I can understand it, So that's what I left. That's what I ultimately, that's what my feelings were walking away from that decision. And I'm not really entirely sure what to do about the state of South Carolina. I definitely appreciate the conversations that popped up in regards to Asian Americans and how they usually tend to set up in Black American spaces. That's definitely the experience of them on the East Coast. I'm not quite sure what their experience is on the West Coast, but I imagine that it's similar. But I mean, it is what it is. Like what was the expectation?
So my background is in law enforcement. That's my background. Both my parents were police officers. I was a military police officer. When I retired, I taught law enforcement. So that's my entire background. Typically, when we're talking about self-defense, if it had been a police officer, you don't shoot someone running away from you unless they threaten the public. All right. If they don't threaten the public, you don't shoot them in the back. All right. You just call it in, you chase them down. In this case, it's a civilian. Again, a split-second decision for someone who is not trained. But I do know if I felt like my life was in danger, I would not chase the person who puts my life in danger. That's just what I wouldn't do as a civilian. So for him and his son to pursue this 14-year-old boy over 4 bottles of water makes no sense to me. And at the end of the day, my mom always says,
yards.
Sir?
I said 135 yards. Yes. This is the long. It's a football field in a quarter. That's a lot of running. That's a lot of running.
So and again, when you're training to be a law enforcement officer, you have to consider stress, mental, but also physical. So you run and then you take the time to aim and fire. Your heart rate is up. Your breathing is up. And I don't know if Rick Chow had background in weapons or anything of that nature. I have no idea. But that's a hell of a shot. And it's unfortunate for that young man that it was a hell of a shot. The fact that he got off hurts my soul. Over 4 bottles of water. You felt like you were in danger. So you shot this guy running from you. How are you in danger if he's going away from you? If he's coming towards you, I got it. But running from you, I don't understand that. The witnesses said they didn't see a weapon in the what's the young man's name? Cyrus. They didn't see a weapon in his hand. That's what the witnesses said. The only witness who said they saw one was his son. But of course he's going to say that. But unbiased witnesses said they didn't see one. So the fact that he got off, like, it bothers me so much. And he's right. A lot of Asians, Indians, Pakistanis, they set up in black spaces. They do. And if he was really there to help the public, I don't think he'd have chased that dude for 4 bottles. It's water. He didn't steal money. If he stole it, he didn't take money. He didn't take anything of real value, so to speak. He took water. If he took it, again, allegedly, if he took it, it was 4 bottles of water. What are we talking about? And it bothers me. It bothers me on a law enforcement level. It bothers me on a black level. It bothers me on a father's level. So many levels. The fact that he got off, it bothers me so much. I am happy the family is pursuing them civilly. They have a civil lawsuit against them, but this whole thing is just, I don't know, man. I can't think of anything else except it bothers me to my core.
Yeah. Just to give a little bit more details, because I think this case is tying into everything that we've talked about to this point in this particular episode, man. Cyrus Carmack Belton, that's the young boy's name.
Yes.
May he rest in peace. Went into this store, and now I watched every part of this trial, right? Because they publicly displayed it. So they had it on YouTube the day of, from the opening statements to the witnesses to the closing statements to the verdict. That store had one of the best camera systems I've ever seen. The same, you're talking about your policing background. I come from risk management. I know camera systems. I came from loss prevention, and I've done both. The physical detail of the security, the merchandise, to the way that you're supposed to approach it. And there's a few things that go on. I've worked loss prevention in stores that were hands-on, which is very few, specifically for the reason that a lawsuit might open up if you were wrong. They call it, similar to policing, I'm sure, a bad stop. If you don't have all the elements of theft and you miss something, and then you go and accuse a person, especially if you detain them, you open yourself up to a lawsuit because you were wrong. So most stores have it to where there's insurance. Let it go.
Yep.
Right? Secondly, Mr. Chow himself has a history of doing something similar, just didn't reach to this extent. He had a 2015 incident. A woman allegedly shoplifted beer and boiled peanuts. And after a confrontation outside the store, he fired on her 6 rounds from a Glock at the passenger side of her vehicle as she drove away. What did you say, Jamel? You're not supposed to shoot somebody, especially in the back, unless they are a danger to the public. Cool. Second shoplifting incident, he opened fire on a vehicle on another suspected shoplifter in a separate encounter. Again, not criminally charged for either one of those. So fast forward to this particular situation, it's not alleged. Again, amazing camera system. He took the 4 bottles out, and on that same camera, he put the 4 bottles back in. They had 3 people in the store: wife, father, son. So in the loss prevention world, the way that you would break it down whenever you're trying to do it, there's somebody that's in the back handling the cameras. This is for all y'all that like to steal at Target and Walmart. Let me just give you some of the game on how it works, right? There's a person on the floor, possibly 2, usually wearing plain clothes, look like you. There's a person in the back. And the whole point of the dual system is you can never break eye contact with the person and that item. So that way you have a concurrent story to tell and to document. If a camera angle can't get it, there should be a person on the floor that has the angle to make sure that that item is still on that person, or if it was dropped off wherever it may be dropped off. So when you see the whole video footage, you see the mom is initially behind the counter. She has now moved around. She is standing behind him in the store as he takes the water bottles out. The son has then moved behind the counter himself. Dad's not to be seen until a little bit later on. They confront him at the front of the door. They said he had some in his pockets. He lifted his pockets, didn't necessarily take his hand out, but lifted his pockets enough to where we know what a water bottle looks like in a hoodie pocket. There was no water bottle in the hoodie pocket. So then we get to the outside chase and everything. Dad pops out with the history of shooting at people from behind. So I want to take this moment right here because we have all of these details, and in the essence of addressing us, we having in-house conversations. Sean Kent is a coon, and I double down on that, right? Sean Kent is a defense lawyer for Mr. Chow himself. Sean Kent has a history of doing a lot of funny business. So this is a personal feeling that I am expressing. It's hard to validate or invalidate who is and what is a coon. So I leave that term out there as it is. But Sean Kent did the whole acting job in front of these jurors on the floor in the courtroom. Like, oh, what if this happened? No, we're not here for that. You shot him in the back, and there was no water stolen. So in the in-house community, we can address him. He's said his issues. I didn't care. We can also address the conversation of why did he have a weapon in the first place? For sure. I'm not opposed to that. Same thing that we will build into to the later case that we were talking about. Why do we have that? And we know the nuances of that. We're going to try to get to that and more on what we could do better, the reasonings why, for sure. But those are the things that exist within the Black household, right? Because to our other pieces with the Asian community, Middle Eastern, Indian, Latino community, when they're setting up these certain shops within these areas, that's where it comes back to the books and understanding why. The Asian community is the closest thing to accepted white-facing minorities out of all the other minorities. But you're still not liked by them, which is why your stores are in the Black areas in the first place. It's like a buffer. It's a legal money laundering situation. You collect the Black money and it filters from the Asian community or insert any other community into the white neighborhoods. That's how it's worked. So the proximity isn't necessarily clean of racism in itself. And it seems like that's a bigger conversation that tends to get missed in those other communities, because as I'm sure you fellas are aware, after this happened, there was clearly some sentiments voiced from the Black community as well as the Asian community. Now it's turned into another diaspora war against each other. And it's one of those where I've seen a few Asian people speak out against those hateful Asian folks. They're talking because I know Black people were talking about boycotting Asian businesses, which is a lot within our communities, from the hair stores to the salons to these gas stations to corner stores, all of that. We've shown that we could be successful boycotting people, i.e. Target. They're still trying to get us back. Still trying to get us back to this day, right? But I say all that to say that's also the reason why we're pushing for these in-house conversations, because you're not aware of what the white or the European Americans have done to that community. Bodega mentioned the East Coast. A lot of the internment camps were on the West Coast, especially during World War II. It was supposed to be specifically for the Japanese. You think they cared to know the difference between which community was which? That's how we got all these slurs. It's a group slur. Right? There's group slurs. The ones that felt like they were a little bit more educated went a little bit further to, I guess, classify something for the respective Asian country, but they were still racist. They were just doubling down on the races. All Asian communities were susceptible to the internment camps as it came over here. No different than the Asian communities that were made to build the railroads as we set up the railroad system historically in America. It affects them too. And that's why to my earlier point, I have an issue with this POC term used so loosely as if it's all solidarity, because it becomes a case like this. Again, the gentleman has a history of shooting at people. I don't know the full details of whether or not the people that he shot at were Black themselves, but it was less than a water bottle before, 4 water bottles, if you want to be specific, boiled peanuts and beer. It wasn't until I went to Atlanta recently that I knew boiled peanuts was a delicacy. I clearly missed that. Maybe there's more to the argument that Texas,
South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia.
I seen it in Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? So maybe there's more to the argument that Texas isn't the real South. You know how that goes back and forth. Maybe I'm cool with that. If we missed out on boiled peanuts, shit, call it for what it is. But the Asian community specifically, a lot of their stores are set up and you're nothing more than a buffer, and that's what makes it difficult. And I think that's the piece that we also can do better to understand. Some of us know that, but some of us may not fully realize that. And so when we come to this piece of getting ready to do pushbacks and boycotts, and I love the idea of boycotting, I don't want it to be missed on, let's also have that conversation. I was like, why did he feel the need to have the weapon, and what can we do about that? Because that store is within our community. We can take accountability for that if we keep it clean, right? I'm not here to speak on his threat level or his fear for his life, or his they always argue the potential vigor that someone might have, but you can't prove that. We don't have those answers unless the family shares with us, and even then it's always nitpicking. I want to get to more of the conversation as to why, because that is within the Black community, and it's unfortunate. May he rest in peace. Sean Kent, I say it again, coonery. I doubled down on the coonery. And this case particularly hurt me because, man, I don't know what else that prosecutor could have did. Right? I don't know what else. He laid out an amazing case. An amazing case. I don't know what else he could have did. Hindsight's 2020. Just for our knowledge, I think to Bodegas when I put it in one of the chats, South Carolina doesn't have degrees of murder. It's just murder. That's all they have. If you want a lesser charge, there's manslaughter that's available, and they have degrees of manslaughter, first, second, and third, right? It was agreed upon by the defense and the prosecution that there weren't going to be any other charges but murder. From my perspective, I believe the prosecution went along with that because this was supposed to be a layup case.
Slam dunk. Yep.
All the details were there. Camera footage exists. The only witness counteracting the scientific evidence from the autopsy to Jamel, what do they call it? The people that go to the scene and like
forensic scientists.
Forensic scientists.
CSI crime scene investigators.
There you go. All of them showed his story doesn't add up. All of that was there from the discovery, and you couldn't ask for a better lob at the rim with a 7.5 nigga if you wanted to, bro. Like, it was there. So I get why you wouldn't take a lesser charge, send him to jail. They weren't even allowed to bring up his history in court. That's the part where I probably should have had my peepers on. It's like, why would you not? But even still, cameras show water is taken out, water is put back in. Clear view, not one of those grainy cameras. You know, when we think of gas stations, like it's a little bit. No, these things are crisp. Almost look like these. Almost look like these. You see all 4 go back in, man, and you chase them 130 yards. That's more than the football field. That's if you include the end zones. Each end zone is 10 yards deep. So you still went more than an entire football field from back of the end zone to the back of the end zone. And that makes it tough, right? So coming off of that case, and rest in peace, Cyrus Carmack Belton, and hopefully the family gets their retribution. As we continue this conversation, this is also where we go on with the difficulties of being Black in America. We have the Karmelo Anthony case that also occurred in Texas, and we just had the ruling on that, right? Another opportunity for us to address that question. That's why I didn't speak to it for the first one, of why they have the weapon. We can come back to that. But for those that don't know, we did cover this last year on this platform, and I spoke to it then. If I can quote myself to the best of my recollection, I haven't gone back to it in a while. I did put it out there that while we wait for these details, let's do better on having these types of conversations as to why they have the need to defend themselves in the way that we do, and especially in these American school systems. What is going on is beyond a racial issue, because we should care about the kids. One thing that won't change about me, I don't care what the race, creed, or color is. When it comes to children, man, there's no question for me there. I don't care about none of that. Let's protect the kids. Women and children should be of the highest priority. We can figure out the rest as we go along. So why these two gentlemen were in these situations, it should not be a race war, even though we know that that's what it's going to come to. And let's not build assumptions. And despite all of the information that we had going into it, I will start off by saying what one of my frustrations were in this case. It was the opposite of the Chow case. You couldn't view it. They weren't putting it out. So we're just getting bits and pieces of the details until the official court transcripts actually come out. Allegedly, there's a video. Allegedly, the witnesses changed their statements from what they originally said until they actually got to the trial, and they turned against him. All that good jazz. Unfortunately, Karmelo Anthony was found guilty, and they gave him 35 years. How do y'all want to, or fellas?
So even though it's not the same, I think about the Medgar Evers trial, where an all-white jury found what's the guy's name? Byron De La Beckwith, found him not guilty of murdering Medgar Evers. This just leads into why representation, and I've seen white podcasters and Fox News personnel say, oh, well, it doesn't matter what color the jury is. It does matter. Representation matters in all aspects of life. In all aspects. We have another all-white jury trying this young black man. And again, 35 years. We've seen something very similar. The guy, I think he got 10 years. It was a white kid. I think he got 10 years. And I will find the name of while you guys are talking. Thank you. Thank you. Why did he get 35? Why did he get 35 years? And if you were going to say self-defense, he's in the other team's tent. I would feel threatened too. You're surrounded by the other team. It's not just that one kid, it was the other team. I would feel threatened. Could he have left? Should he have left? I wasn't there. So I don't know. Maybe someone could have blocked him. Like, we don't know all the particulars. We don't know everything. I definitely know he shouldn't have gotten 35 years. He's 17. So what are we looking at? I'm not a math major, but we're talking what, 52?
He was what, 17 at the time? He's 19 now. So
but it's time served also.
Oh, okay.
He was out on bond.
Was he?
Yeah, he was out on bond. Because remember, that became a whole thing. His GoFundMe hit, I want to say it hit about 500K possibly. And all the European Americans were mad about that, saying, like, look at that. You're supporting, because they happened to buy a house. The family happened to buy a house not long after the GoFundMe was established. So they tried to say they used the money to go buy the house. And for this conversation, because I don't think you two gentlemen are aware, I lived in the DFW area for a decade and some change. The time frame that I went up to Dallas was 2010 specifically, right? And the Frisco, Texas, because that's just a suburb, just I say 25 minutes north of Dallas. The Frisco, Texas that was there in 2010 and the Frisco, Texas that is there now, completely different. And what I mean by that, development happened rapidly. Went from one high school to, I want to say they have like 8 or 9 in this current time, like high schools in that city. They're their own little school district of playing. They could play themselves in sports and not have to see any other school district if they really wanted to, right? The Cowboys practice facility is set up now in Frisco, Texas. It's a very affluent community. The first protest that hit national news for those that were going against the mask mandate and COVID, guess where that happened? Frisco, Texas. I saw it live in person. I didn't even know what it was about until My mom had texted me a little bit later that day, like, isn't this not far from you? I say that to say back to the home piece when they're talking about his GoFundMe. It's like, man, everybody in that community has money, color aside, black, white, whatever. Everybody in the Frisco, Texas community we're looking at least 150 to 200 income and above, at least, right? So just wanted to add that because I think that adds a very important context to what that specific community is. And I tried to explain that because when it comes to the jury and the representation, I will say this, I don't have anything to really back it, but just knowing that area and knowing how they police and knowing how they crack down on certain things, there's a small part of me that believes it didn't matter who that child was. They were going to make an example out of him.
Of course.
It didn't matter black, white. He just so happened. It was one of those situations. They would have done this, maybe not the 35 years, but I'm spotting at least 15 to 20, no matter who the kid was. He just so happened to be black simultaneously.
I'm not a OG Texan like you are. I don't know anything about Frisco. I barely know Dallas Fort Worth. You know, my homeboy lives up there. I go see 2 days, I head back down. So I don't know anything about Texas. But I do know representation is important in all aspects of life. That much I do know.
The charges, I think to your question, they found Casey Allison not guilty of murder, where they found Karmelo Anthony guilty of murder. They convicted Casey Allison of criminally negligent homicide. Oh, okay. Right. So he was convicted of a lower charge. And for those listening, the Casey Allison case, oddly enough, very similar, also different situations to the Karmelo Anthony case. This too also happened in Texas. To my Frisco point, just follow me. This happened in Belton, Texas. Belton, Texas is just one of those towns that happen to be off of a major highway. There's nothing else that you know about there. For Atlanta, it's like, if you were to name, it's not Atlanta, but you happen to go up 85 and it was just some town that surrounded 85. No name, you just only know it. That's, you know what I'm saying? That's what Belton, Texas is. You pass through it to get from San Antonio, Austin to Dallas. It's just one of those towns on the way. The case for Casey Allison happened in a high school bathroom. 2 boys. Casey Allison is European American, and then Joey Ramirez is the victim. He's obviously of Latino descent. Casey Allison has his knife. They've had history of a back and forth over a young woman. This was fresh off of prom, and Casey Allison ended up in the bathroom. Joey and his team came in, and they had some words. Casey Allison said something along the lines of, "Don't touch me or I'll stab you." And then an altercation proceeded to exist. Joey Ramirez was stabbed. Casey Allison ran home. Right, police had to find him there, and he eventually got charged with criminally negligent homicide, and also, he had a weapon on the premises of a school. Similarities, right? Karmelo Anthony case, he was convicted of murder. That's the separation between the 10 and the 35 years, first and foremost. The representation thing, I do think is a good piece to talk about. It is also kind of, I think the defense failed in their help with the selection of the jury myself. You're only allowed 3 strikes, right? Like, meaning as an attorney team, prosecution, defense, you can only strike out 3 jurors with cause. I don't know who the other jurors were, but I feel like they failed somewhere in this process, because I don't know how you can end up with an all-white jury and you thought you were going to be successful. Personally, I believe you should have had this case tried outside of that district because of the amount of biasness. Everything that I just listed plays into this case. Everything that I just listed plays into this case. You could have had this tried in the next county over, next district over, to at least try to level set. I feel that was a drop ball there. But to the some of the differences, the jury rejected the self-defense claim for Karmelo Anthony, where they didn't necessarily reject it for Casey Allison. That's a major difference as well. I can't get past a piece that I'm learning now. Not everybody was athletes. And when you grow up in an athlete, whatever niche world you grow up in, you don't realize how niche it is. A lot of the people complaining clearly never ran track. If you've been at track meets, you often end up under other people's tents. Right?
Yeah,
Like
that's
that, because the
just how
coaches,
it goes.
you feel me? Like you are conversating and associating. If the boys were under the tent, because I think someone had one of our close friends had mentioned to me, he's like, he was surprised no one pulled out the phone and recorded. And I said, truth be told, when you're at a track meet, it's like you might have your phone, but more than likely it's under the bag. You just sat down just long enough to maybe scroll, hit some text, but you're probably chopping it and getting ready. If the boys were under the tent, that means the girls were on the track. That's who I would think would pull out the phones. Would more than likely be the girls, because most of the guys are trying to get involved in whatever the kerfuffle is. So if the boys are under the tent, the girl is probably on the track. He's under the tent, and this whole thing, well, the coach gave him authority to mind the tent. The coach can't tell you how to police a situation. There's no rule that exists like that in Texas. But that's part of the defense, or that's part of the complaints as well for the people that are speaking on it. People that don't look like us, of course. The coach can't clear somebody to put hands on nobody. The coach isn't even necessarily clear to put hands on somebody, depending on what the situation is. No teacher can give a student access to man the class and then manhandle somebody. The best that you could do is contact administration, contact the coach if you had an issue, if there's that type of issue. And the beauty of this, maybe we just don't understand what stand your ground means anymore. I thought it was clear definition of it, and this is a stand your ground state, which is why it threw me off. The case in Allison case, the trial started right, or not, maybe a day or two separation of this particular incident occurring with Karmelo Anthony. A year to date, like that case was going on when the Karmelo Anthony situation happened. This was all fresh. So I guess I just don't understand what stand your ground means. That's clearly what my frustration. Maybe I don't know what that is based on the example that we've been given, which ties into the Rick Chow case, which goes all the way back to Trayvon Martin. Maybe I just don't understand what self-defense is anymore, since you can gauge what my reaction is to your initiating action.
So again, I'm not a Texan, but in Texas, stand your ground typically means you can defend yourself and not have to run away. So you can go ahead and engage if you feel threatened. I do know with self-defense, which is every state in the United States, it doesn't matter what state you're in or who you are, you have the right to self-defense, to protect yourself. So if someone comes at you or someone around you, because it extends to the people around you. So if me and you are out playing ball or something, someone runs up on me and they want to shoot me, and you happen to have your piece on you, you can engage to protect me. All right, because that's still self-defense. It's not just me, or not just yourself, but it's the people around you also. So I don't know if the Karmelo Anthony, I don't know if his defense would actually meet criteria for stand your ground. I don't know, man. I don't know. But self-defense, dude, if you're outnumbered, it's self-defense. It's self-defense. If I'm outnumbered by 2-1, a 2-1 advantage, I'm outnumbered. If it's a dude bigger than me, and you know, I'm not a small guy, right? So if it's a dude bigger than me and I'm engaging with a weapon, obviously I must feel like my life is endangered. So again, another case for stand your ground. This whole thing, man. I do feel bad as a father, regardless of race. I feel bad for the father who lost his child. I did see a video with him dropping some N-bombs himself.
Oh yeah,
so,
yeah, he racist.
It
has a history of assault.
AI, I wasn't sure if it was AI or not, but yeah, as a father, I would hate to lose my children for any reason at all.
Yeah, I want to also be clear here. This could just be me. I don't know what y'all sentiments are on it. I'm not one to bypass liability when appropriately allocated. He shouldn't have had a knife. I agree with that. he shouldn't have had it on that premises. I also agree with that. So I don't like how the conversation always gets mixed up there. Well, he had intent, because why else would you have a knife? You can't prove somebody's intent necessary. It's very difficult, because there's no way for him to be able to defend why he had it. It doesn't matter what answer he gave. If you already are lost in that particular sauce, you're going to keep coming up with other reasons. There's infinite reasons to justify why you would believe he went with intent with the knife, the same way that there's infinite reasons of it could have just been him protecting himself. It could have been he works a warehouse job and he cuts, some people have pocket knives to use for whatever that you don't know. That should have been the burden of proof on the prosecution, which it appears they were able to push that. But I don't want it to be missed. He shouldn't have had the knife on that premises at minimum. That's what he shouldn't have had the knife on the premises. So I can acknowledge where you should still be in trouble for that. No different than the case analysis case. You had a knife on school campus. Doesn't matter what the reason is. It's clearly written that you are not to have a knife on that premises. Be in trouble for that. The difference between murder and manslaughter here, trying to show the intent, because that's why we highlight the case analysis case. They had a history. It was a known history. Friends knew about it. They're going back and forth over this girl. It had lingered for a few days. They were more or less trying to schedule a fight anyways. They even knew that Joey Ramirez, the victim in that situation, him and his friends had a history of jumping people. There was details, there was buildup, there was a climax to the story, which if 10 years and negligent homicide was the result, then that's where I think a lot of us are clearly upset. If you want to get into the details of, there was no buildup. We do know the Metcalf twins apparently, I don't want to say apparently, allegedly are bullies themselves. They are significantly bigger than him, but there's nothing that shows that they really knew each other until that day. Might have heard of, but no interactions. So there's no history. So to say that he did this with intent is what boggles my mind. How do you prove? They just met. It's raining. Everybody converses under these tents. Could he have moved? For sure. I'm not dumb. He could have moved. Could they have went and told the teacher? Yes, two things are true. And they're not the delegators of it. The word choice too, I think, is also where people get caught up the most. So y'all let me know how you feel about it. His words were, touch me and see what happens. Is that a threat? Is that a warning? What does that mean? Since we have to get really finicky these days when it comes to that, because I'm asking this. When I was talking to the same homie, I was even explaining, I was like, man, it's something that we really should teach our children. It's like, hey, it's probably best you don't say nothing. Obviously, try to avoid the situation as best as you can, but know that every word becomes important. Announce you're scared for your life. Say you don't want any issues, but they're telling us you can't say there's consequences to whatever actions that you do. It is touch me and see what happens a threat? Is it just because we grew up in the Black community that we grew up in, which might have been a little bit more rigorous at that time? Because remember, this is Frisco, Texas. I don't believe white people know all those different vernaculars that we are familiar with. Like, I'm gonna pop the trunk, or touch me, see what happens, or all right now. Any of those, I genuinely don't believe, jokes and non-jokes, I don't believe that they know that. They don't experience that. And to that white juror, to those kids, is that, I'm not speaking for them, I'm asking y'all, do you believe that sentence by itself, is that a warning? Is that a threat? What does that look like?
So a warning typically, and again, I'm Google King, it's alert about an existing danger. Something could happen to you. A threat is stating this will happen to you. So it sounds more like a warning. So he didn't say, touch me again and I'll stab you, because that's a threat. A warning is, see what happens. So it sounds more like a warning to me, as someone who has warned people himself. It sounds more like a warning to me. But again,
I agree with that sentiment. It's definitely a warning. uh, and doesn't even like if that's where the prosecution hang their hat on, because I didn't pay attention to the trial, admittedly, but like if that's what the prosecution hang their hat on, that's a very, very flimsy accusation. Hey, touch me and find out what happens. That is a proof of intentional homicide. Like that's a you know what I'm saying? Like they were at track meet. That's a long jump. No funny shit. That's a long jump. To say that.
Yeah, see what happens could have meant I'm gonna go get the coach. Touch me, see what happens. I'm gonna get the coach. Touch me, see what happens. I'm gonna go alert my parents to what's going on in here. Like, we don't know. It's a warning. A threat is actually telling him this is what I'm going to do with you. So, or to you, excuse me.
And I think part of that, from what I'm understanding, what some of the witnesses had said at the time when it first happened and the investigation was going on, and what they said on the stand also changed, and it seemed to be more geared towards Karmelo being the instigator. So it may not just be the statement itself, it might be the statement and in tandem with the witness statements of leaning them towards that. There's apparently a video, and all stories that are coming out indicate that the video does not agree with the verdict. But I do know by the time we get that video, I don't know. So they're gonna try to appeal it. We know this, and now it leaves us with the conversation. I do think at some point the weapons conversation does need to come up, but it's also unfortunate because a school shooting can happen at any day in this country, and that so it's hard. It's hard to go about that, because if we're really keeping it clean, it's almost like you have to explain how to play dirty in order to remain clean, and that's just irony in itself. Am I off in that thinking? Do y'all have a different sentiment on that? Because how do you even protect the kid? What do you tell the kids to do to handle themselves in a situation where both the teachers are getting beat up and the kids are getting beat up? And we know at track, man, there probably wasn't a coach within 25, 35 yards of that, because they're manning the meets and whatnot. How much taxpayer dollars do you put into adding security to the schools and whatnot that's not being destroyed by the Department of Education being dissolved? All those questions.
I was gonna say, when I was growing up, we didn't have cell phones, so we definitely didn't have cameras all over the place. But we did have security. Security was everywhere, usually to protect the road team when they came into town. I didn't run track. I played football and basketball, but security was there. So, and that's not to say that they can be everywhere. They're not going to be under the tent necessarily, but more security. I don't know if that's the right answer. It's the only thing I can think of in the immediate time frame is more security, or don't have a tent up unless it's acclimate weather. Just have them sit on a bench. I don't know. You know what? That's my answer. I don't know.
Yeah, I understand that. Bodega.
Yeah, that's a very fair answer. And even if you include more security, then you are in most cases, especially given the description of the town, the security is also more than likely white, which means that there is an inherent bias against black youth and kids and all these other kind of things, and that happens even if you are the security guard, the black security guard hired by the white administration or whatever the case to protect whatever it is that needs to be protected. So it's very hard to say that more security should be in place. It's also very hard to say to tell your kid to walk away, to not defend themselves, to just make it home safe. I feel like this goes back into that conversation that that some of us may have heard growing up as being children of baby boomers, right? Because those were the things that they learned, and they were the things that they felt like they needed to do to survive. And so it's a very tricky space to be in, where it's like, I want you to be able to defend yourself, but I also want you to come home. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I have mad nieces and nephews that exist in various places, and it's like, I want you to be empowered to stand up for yourself. I also desperately want you to come home. And so, like, I don't know what to tell you to do if you don't have that knife. Because the argument can also be said that, like, okay, say he doesn't have the knife, right? Or say he has the knife and he doesn't use it. If he gets jumped by this white majority group in this white majority space in this white majority county, what is the percentage of him making it home?
Yeah.
We've seen cases and escalations of that happening, where as the black person, you do everything in your power to do the right thing and you still don't make it home, right?
Yeah.
And the people who carried out the injustice are slapped on the wrist, or maybe they're suspended, or maybe they're whatever the case, but like, their life is temporarily as a blip affected, and then the rest of that doesn't seemingly matter. And so I to Jamel's point, I don't know what to say. Parents, if you are a parent, if you're an uncle, you're an aunt, whatever the case, the only thing that I could possibly recommend is that you spend as much time with your younger family members that you can. You show up to these events, you show up to these places, if it's a track meet, whatever the case. If it's not you, let it be a representative from your family. If it's not somebody that, a family friend, the usual, build community, build friendships, all these other kind of things, because like, you don't know.
Mhm.
You really truly do not know. And if there is no if there's no child representation there, we do understand that whites will configure whatever story they need to protect each other. Whatever the story, whatever the cameras, whatever the case, they will do everything in their power to protect themselves, because they have that intrinsic understanding of community, even when it includes harming others. So on that note, shout out to my friend. I won't say your name, you know what I'm saying? You don't like recognition, all of that kind of stuff, but they show up to every field trip, every soccer game, they ensure that they have representation no matter where their kid is. And I feel like that's really admirable. So
Yeah. I will echo both of y'all sentiments. I will add the piece of, man, for the kids in general, we got to remember that they're still kids, in the essence of push them towards some type of escalation first. I know it's frowned upon, but when you're in a kid overall, I don't care what type of background you have, you should be putting the kid in the community, at least at school, to where you don't have to worry about this outside noise, right? I don't believe the emphasis on tattletaling and snitching should apply to children. If somebody is bothering you or you're getting in these types of situations, it's always better to have a paper trail of showing that you at least notified somebody, right? Because it's easier to address, especially in today's schooling system. I didn't come from a family to where my grades was the teacher's fault. Ever. That's not how I grew up. But that's how it is today. Our parents came from the generations of at teachers and administrative staff being able to paddle. our parents came or it then raised us in a generation of the teacher can say something. They may not be able to paddle you, but it was still on the parents to take care of that. Then we seen the shift of essentially no child left behind, and then pushing nobody actually failing school anymore. And we can get into all of the dynamics as to why a child might fall behind, whatever the case may be. And I acknowledge all of those things. And because of those things, it's also why I'm emphasizing like we can do better as to setting an appropriate tone for the kids going to school. Tell the teacher, man. Tell the teacher.
Yeah.
And if especially in today's world, because cell phones came around during our time, but to Jamel's point, they didn't have it. We had them, but the technology that they got here, I know in Texas, a lot of school districts are taking phones away. I don't care if you got to get your kids the glasses, the meta glasses or something like that. When you tell the teacher, I need you to, if you don't have a phone or something on you, go, teach your kid to come home and say, hey, I spoke to the teacher about this. And you as a parent, you send an email with a follow-up trail, no different than what we do in corporate America. Hey, per my son or daughter, this was a conversation that occurred today. This is just the update. Please fill me in on your side of the story so you have a paper trail. Then set up that parent-teacher conference if you can. And that's where, to your piece, the community aspect of it is, as dangerous as it is for schools today, I could speak on my son's experience. You have to already be on a list, and it has to be approved by the school district in order for you to come pick up a child, right? As it should be. Having the appropriate community, that's where you need an older brother, an uncle, an aunt, or somebody. If you can't do it because you work X amount of jobs and you're constantly busy, or you got multiple kids in different areas, both of y'all work daytime jobs when you're in person, that's where the community building aspect comes in, because I think kids also need that uncle, aunt figure, because you know how we are. We can hear the same words from our favorite aunt or uncle that mom and dad have been saying, but they're not mom and dad. So it came through a little bit more clear. And that also translates into, hey, they're having an issue at school. They're on the approved guardian list. Please have that. I already emailed it. He came home, told me XYZ happened. I emailed the teacher. I got their response, or I didn't get their response. So you know what? Now we come into the school and emphasize those practices more, so the kids know safety's coming somewhere. The kids know that somebody is watching them at all times. Like whether it be the teacher documenting what's going on, the parents, that they know something is going to happen. So you don't have too many kids, or we start working on kids not having to feel like they have to do some type of self-defense, especially on campus. And simultaneously, with that being said, we're pushing stay safe. I'm not saying stay dangerous in this aspect, but self-defense classes are appreciated for children, because that also teaches discipline as well. So there's a difference between losing a fight and bullying. Bullying, you didn't fight back. And it's hard pressed. We should get away from, because I'm sure, Bodega, you had similarities as a kid. When we grew up, if you lost a fight, the parents expected us to go keep fighting until you won. You don't raise kids to be cut like that. Can we keep it clean about that? You don't want your kids to go through what you go through, but then you still try to hold on to those old mindsets. Negro, you haven't been in a fight in X amount of years. Stop it. Right? Facts. You haven't trained that kid. You may not even be in shape to do the stuff that you used to do. And why would you want to be? Because last I checked, as a parent, you're trying to get away from those environments. So some of that mindset, especially within the Black community, is like, man, we got to ease back on that, man. If your kid might be Charmin soft because they never were in the environments that you are in, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'd rather school be for the education so they can sharpen their mind and be strong mentally and emotionally. Physically, I hope you're never in that situation. These are the types of environments I feel like we should do. So that community involvement, shout out to your homies, man. It's not even just a field trip, man. Sometimes if you have the opportunity, if it's not you, your kid rides this bus, the people be out in the neighborhood, there's other kids and whatnot. Show up to the open houses, show up to the fundraisers if they're doing them on campus, show up to other sports that your kids may not play. So I know kids don't want to be around us when they're around the homies and whatnot. You don't necessarily have to acknowledge me. You look like me, though, nigga. I'm sorry. But just like, you don't have to acknowledge me in person. I'll sit in the away stands. But it's just more getting that environment, because if there's other parents there, you don't know your neighbor, so I know you don't know your friend, your son or daughter's friends' parents. We're at the point now, man. I kid you not. My nephews had a birthday party. I'm at my brother's house. Parent came early, hour early. Didn't know my brother, never met him before. Didn't know my sister. Just dropped the kid off. Like, yeah, what time you need me to be back? And then they left. And there was multiple parents that were doing that. That's crazy. And that's how I think that type of stuff is how we end up in this particular case situation. Anyways, nobody knew nobody. Nobody checked nobody. I did have the fortune of being in the neighborhood. It's like, man, if Bodega and I got in the squabble, them kids then told somebody else who then told their parents. And by the time Bodega and I got home, I have to answer to my mom whether I won or lost.
listen. I'm telling you, like you know, I don't have kids, right? So like I preference that with, you know, the viewers were saying that like I don't have kids. I understand, you know, you work, I work a 9 to 5, so like I can only imagine how much more would be on my plate if I was, you know, raising kids while having to provide for them full time, right? But to that, I guess like that greater just community aspect, man, when I got arrested at school for, you know, having a weapon on campus and all this other kind of stuff and blah blah blah, the community was set up to where somebody was immediately able to tell my younger brother. My younger brother was immediately able to tell my mom, and then my mom also received calls from other parents from their kids, letting them know about like what the situation was or anything along those lines, and all of that other kind of stuff, right? And so you just, and it's hard, right? Like it's hard as adults. You know, we're always online. We got these phones now. You know, time is of the essence. You know, all mad other things are happening in your personal life, and so building those relationships are extremely challenging. But I would implore everyone to just, if you can find 1-2 people within your immediate community who can say, like, you know their name, you know who they are, you know the last name, you got their phone number, whatever the case. If it's something, if it's anything, however, whatever, it's just like having somebody, you know, family wise, community wise, something to be able to reach out to, so that again, just your representation is there and you are known and your kids is known and all of that. You know what I'm saying? I can't say it would have made a difference in this just general scenario, but like if your parent is there, I feel like you are more apt to act accordingly, even just in the black neighborhood, right? Just like, well, that's specifically talking about black Americans. If your parent is there, or you know somebody who's representing your parent is there, you know, you're just more cognizant of your own actions because you're a representation of them. And so, you know,
you ain't lie at all, bro.
It's a sad situation. It's a really sad situation. But I mean, honestly,
you didn't lie though, man. Anytime Pops was at my games, my game wasn't the same, bro. Like that's how powerful his parental presence was, man. It didn't matter if it was a home game, and you're aware of what football looks like in Texas, especially at high school. It's a madhouse in there. But the family has this signature whistle, that 2-finger, you know what I'm saying, that it will pierce through the loudest of trumpets and tubas in the brass section. That when he did that whistle, it didn't matter where I was at on the field. I don't care what coach is talking. I had to at least acknowledge the whistle, eye contact. And he probably saying something, whether it be like a calm down, think more, or giving me that look like, hey, boy, I'll pull you off this court. I don't care about them coaches either. I don't care if it's halftime. I'll pull you out. Like you're right. It's different. But I also want to add, no different than what we say when we're communicating about what we need to do in the community for adults. Talk to your kids, man. Niece, nephew, son, daughter, cousin. Like if you're the older ones, talk to the kid, but especially the parents. ask what happened in their day, and don't be satisfied with, oh, I just had a good day or it was a bad day. Like, man, come up with ways so it so your child feels accommodated to in conversation, and only you know your particular child. You can sometimes you can't just ask them directly what happened and they give you the details, because you don't know what that means to them. They're experiencing their hormonal changes, emotions, their budding, whatever the case may be. But know your child well enough to where you know how to ask that question to get details, so you know when they're being honest about something and when they're being comfortable, because your home should be their comfort zone as well, as we defend, especially as we know in the Black community, against what goes on outside. You should be able to talk to your kids, and men specifically. I want to say this because this is a conversation I recently had as I transition into our next topic, but I had this with my pops. Men, Black men, be able to joke with your kids. Yes, it's serious outside. Be able to he and ha with your kids, and don't bog your mind too heavily with the consistency of, well, it's this type of world out there. We know that. We know. Have a space, especially for Black men raising young Black boys, man. You know all the questions that you had, and you know all the things that you were possibly getting into. So if you know that, like I know that, and we're also trying to change some of the things that were going on, a lot of us that went through some of the things that we went through, I know I could hit you right now, and you didn't laugh with your dad. You probably needed that laugh that would have built into a hug. You know what I'm saying? You didn't. There was no jokes, bro. But half of us weren't even given the birds and the bees talk. I know how that went in my house. There was just a box of you know what I'm saying. There was no conversation, and there's no laughs if there's no conversation. You have to create that comfortable environment, and that then builds into everything else that we just mentioned. You feel me? So I think that's an easy tool that we could do, and you get to know your child. Because why wouldn't you want to know if you need to know if you have Bebe's kids or you have the next future president? You knew that when they left that house that day. You knew the range. You feel me? Like, you knew exactly where they was at. Let's not play dumb anymore. I think we could do better on that. So that's a smooth transition into, I'm introducing a new segment. I told you guys in the group, for those that are listening, we're really going to start pressing the issue, especially addressing Black men, because that was the mission statement of this podcast. We may not have fulfilled it to your liking or our liking. And there were some moments where I believe we had some greatness, but we're wanting to keep it clean and get genuinely into the bag of cleaning up what we are as men and how we approach things. So you'll see this new segment that I'm calling Look at You, Emotional. As we get to things, it could be funny, it could be serious, it could be whatever, but I'm pushing us as men, and they know this, that all of them are in the group chat. Let's get into these details. You might have to make yourself a little bit vulnerable. Now, I'm not saying blow up your spot at the house. I don't want none of us to do that, because I know what it's like when you got to hear some tongue lashing that all you did was tell a little bit of truth, but you were too accurate with the truth. But we're going to call it Look at You, Emotional. We're going to get into details. And today's conversation is, what is a trait that you got from mom and or dad that you low-key hate? You do this thing, you probably didn't like it when they was doing it, but you know you do it and you got it from them and you hate it. What would that be for you, Bodega?
Yeah. So growing up, my mom, my father figure, whatever the case, none of them really talked about emotions. And so my mother's resolution to emotions was just to find something to do in regard. But the something to do was never like, I'm gonna play video games, or I'm gonna go for a walk, or I'm gonna, do something along those lines, or anything like that. It was really to find like something that she was either directly responsible for, or something that was just kind of mind numbing, to fill the space. And my father, more directly, would isolate. They would both isolate. And so, when you had initially asked this question in the chat, like that was the thing that popped up for me. If I am going through something emotional, if there's some sort of emotional turmoil, if there is something that I'm going through financially, anything along those lines, there's nothing to discuss and there's nothing funny, right? Um, I I'm not, I may ask for help, but if I'm asking for help, it's like I'm down at like, I've tried every other solution. I've bumped my head a few times, cool, whatever the case. And so like, it's more so out of desperation more than anything else. But if it's something emotional or spiritual or something like that that I just gotta like go through, I don't, I'm gonna isolate myself and not openly talk about it. I'm definitely better at that in having those discussions now than let's say I was like 3 years ago, 4 years ago. But the result of picking up that trait from my parents is that like I've lost relationships because of it.
Mm.
There's this particular ex that I have in mind where, at one point in time, she thought that like I no longer liked her or I no longer want to be in a relationship with her because like I was going through such mental gymnastics and emotional gymnastics and like depression and all these other kind of things that like I just wasn't talking. You know what I'm saying? Like if it wasn't the responsibility of running the household or supporting her in the things that like she wanted or needed to do, anything like that, I didn't have anything to say. I literally didn't have anything to say. And so the most the most damning thing about isolation or about silence is like you just are presenting the opportunity for that space to be filled with their thoughts, and because they have nothing, they're not receiving anything from you in regards to that, then they're just making up whatever scenario in their head. And um once that sits for a while, it becomes true regardless of what the actual truth is. And so um I, for anyone who's listening to this who can relate, um I strongly suggest that like if you struggle with isolation, if you struggle with bottling up your emotions, if you struggle with the idea of those emotions being weaponized against you, um then you should really, really sit down with someone. I don't know, you may not be able to afford therapy, you may not be able to um like talk to somebody like in that kind of capacity, but I would encourage that you do talk to somebody that you trust, um regardless of like who they are. If you can truly trust them, have those conversations with them. And it's going to be hard, it's going to be painful, it is excruciating even now when I have to like really truly open up with the things that like I'm insecure about. But as hard as those conversations are, they are easier than the potential bridges that you burn just through silence. They are easier. They are easier than dealing with the assumptions that are associated with isolation and disappearance and silence. And most importantly, you build the ability to develop that vulnerability both ways, right? If you are vulnerable with people, especially people that you trust, more likely than not, they will be vulnerable with you as well. That's not always the case, but it's easier to take that L on the chin than it is to just keep everything bottled up. So yeah, that's my two piece. That's as my two piece for the day.
Can I ask you some follow-up questions to that?
Yeah, man, go ahead.
When you realize this trait and you started to work on it, what were the noticeable differences in, I guess, the conversations that you had with the parental figures? Because you got these traits from them, and then it's still probably, it's more than likely still active with them. What is that like for you?
Yeah, so like having those conversations, having those conversations with my parents, ironically gave them the space to be vulnerable too. Like my mom's, she called me the other day solely for the sake of airing out her frustrations, right? She wasn't asking for anything. She didn't need a solution from a man or anything along those lines. She just called me to air out her grievances, right? And that was interesting because like my mom, I can count on like one hand how many times this actually happened, right? And it was refreshing because as her son I could provide that for her, right? But like it took a lot of conversation from me to reinforce that, right? And then like same thing like my father, my father wasn't in my life the entire time, that like I've been around or whatever the case, but like our relationship has definitely improved a ton, especially in my 30s. My father now is extremely comfortable with like sharing his perspective of like why he wasn't around and why, you know, his vulnerabilities and his insecurities around like how all those kind of things transpired. And like this isn't me copping any pleas for my father. And more importantly, this isn't me telling anyone that they have to accept those things from their father, right? Like, if you got beef with your pops, that's how you want to carry it, may allow God guide both of your hearts. Know what I mean? But within that though, like I don't know, I guess receiving those conversations, having that understanding, puts me at ease, in regards to just like, okay, you acknowledge what happened, you understand that you're sharing your feelings and emotions around that piece, all that kind of stuff. But for me to get there, it took me to truly express the feelings that I had towards him, and him being able to accept them. Now, again, everybody's mileage may vary. I mean, but like, I came at my father, and still to this day, if I'm angry, he's gonna feel that. If I'm upset, if I'm sad, or anything along those lines, he's gonna feel the extent of those emotions. And then it's like, all right, well, we can piece it up afterwards or whatever the case, but like this is how it feels, so is what I'm gonna get off. But getting there was just, I guess, the letting go, the telling it was okay. Like as a man, your feelings aren't a weakness. Your feelings are not a weakness. Your emotions are not a weakness. They don't make you feminine. They don't make you less hetero. They don't make you less of a man being able to express yourself and to rely on others and to trust others with those things. They don't do anything to impact your manhood. And contrary to popular belief, there are people that want to hear and see that side of you, regardless of what society tells you or that woman that you just trying to smash on tells you. Like, there are actual people who care about you beyond what you can provide and how well you have sex.
That's very fair. That's very fair. I'm gonna continue the run right at where you left it off. I would say mine from both is the displacement of self for the image outside the home.
There's a lot of that. There's a lot of that in our community. There's a lot of that.
So for them specifically, came from poorer households where they were originally from. Both of them went into the military. So I grew up in a military household. So when you spend, I think I said this to my pops top of last year, we go to men's ministry and whatnot at the church. And I brought it up because majority of that church, they too are also some type of military affiliated. And I told them, especially the older guys, I said, me coming to peace with this came with the acknowledgement of you for 8 hours a day were a part of a unit, all for one, one for all, strict order, and you had to present yourself a certain way. That's not including whatever mental conflict that you might have had being a black, you're being a black military service person.
Mhm.
Then you came home and had to try your best to be softer with your children in the household. You were black before you were in the military. You had whatever the PTSD that was passed down historically, and then you tried to go about that route, which is difficult.
Yeah.
So for both sides, it's like you pick up what other people think of my parents, and it's like they have an idea, but when you get to the house, it's not that they're different people. It's more of, I realize how shielded they were with who they wanted to be outside, which meant protecting a lot of particular emotions, which turns into not communicating with that person at all, or not really embracing the full excitement of themselves, trying to cater to other people. So whenever something started to sour, it blew up big, or the amount of effort and the toll that effort was taking on them as they continued to participate in certain things. And then what ends up happening is you get one or the other, because then they can also just be very cold out of nowhere. But then you get in the house and then you start to hear some of the things that they're saying. And in my mind is like, why didn't you just say that? Or why didn't you deliver it a little bit earlier if you knew all these details? And so whenever I started to figure that out, to the question I asked you, it didn't go well for the first few attempts in the conversations, because you have to remember I'm the youngest of 4 too. So when I started saying something, even my brothers were hitting me on like, you're not wrong. Matter of fact, I wanted to say it. Shout out to you. But you got to deal with this, and that's what came with it. Like, the relationship with my pops and I, once we level set, has been skyrocketing forward. And this is coming from beforehand. As a kid, it was very difficult to be around him, right? Because it's just we never saw it. I felt like homie never talked to me. There were certain times I was asking questions. I was like, yo, bro, like what did I do to you? Type of thing. Yeah. You feel me? In the house. And then I was a mama's boy. And then there was a specific incident that occurred in my life in my 20s where it didn't necessarily switch, but I started to see the vision that my pops saw and understand some of the things that he was dealing with, especially once I'm getting into relationships, I'm raising a kid in certain things. And I realized with him, oftentimes it wasn't so much that the message was wrong, it was just a piss poor delivery, right? Yeah. And if the delivery is off, it's hard to accept the message. Got it. And then certain traits that I experienced, at least for the clarity when it came to my mom, was watching her engage with my son. And it's like, I know what that game is that you're doing. I remember how it affected me. I remember the long-term results of it. And if you know, and I know, because we were both there, why are you like them conversations? And then it turns into the combative piece and et cetera, where I consistently fight on trying to still be the same Ray everywhere I go. And that's hard, especially being Black, especially being in corporate America, or you're going outside. It's like, I want to be as close as possible to the person I am at home in this setting of you and I talking, with this background that you see that all represents who I am, as well as when I go outside. Because the same thing, we're combating code switching, we're combating all that particular things. Like, I don't do that as much. I try to find that particular balance, because I want you to know how I feel about you. I don't want you to be confused at all. And the amount of relationships that I either squandered, or there's relationships that I was maintaining that didn't need to be maintained, I didn't even really
Yeah.
necessarily feel that way as far as like you was cool, but quiet as kept. I know I'm an introvert. It's like I'm putting in a lot to get out here just to say I showed face when there's clearly people I vibe with more that understand or have shown me that they have the space for me, and then we, you know what I'm saying, we can lean on each other and whatnot, as opposed to this is just for the look. Pointing out these things are just for the look, pointing out, hey, mom, dad, this is family time, man. So starting with them, so that way I can embrace myself and then be that way towards the people that I want to be around. But I did also ask that because it's like I feel like all of us, as you've heard me say numerous times, all of us are building ourselves to be either just like or opposed to whatever that daddy mommy issue is that we had growing up. Every part of our adult life is to try to be better than them in similarities or not do the things that bothered us. So obviously there's some traits that you've accepted. You know what I'm saying? That's all it was. I appreciate that. That's what I'm talking about. See, Bodega came outside to play. I understand. It's only because the Knicks won the finals. If y'all lost, you wouldn't even be talking to me right now.
Facts. There's nothing to talk about. The Knicks lost. It was nothing to talk about.
Yeah. So we gonna come back. We're going to come back to that for the sports episode, but that's a clean segue, man. I just wanted to give a shout out. Father's Day is coming up, right? For the dads that are doing their best to dad. You know who you are, man. We appreciate you. We really do. That's especially even going to I want a personal shout out to my father, my pops, man. I even appreciate you letting me call you pops because that's the benefits of being the youngest. I had to slide that one in. I had to work that into the rotation, you know. Every 15 dads, I'll slide in pops just to see how that works. Shout out to my older brothers being the fathers that they are, man, because they all set examples for me. But we know what fatherhood means in the Black community, and that's where we're going to continue to talk about just being stand-up men. And then even if you're not directly a father, man, we appreciate all of you that played some type of role as a male figure to some young person in their life. And whether you were big uncle, they called you big cousin, you was up the block, you helped whoever it was, man. It takes a village. So the fatherhood extends beyond just your own biological child. So I want to give a shout out to all of those men that temporarily or permanently play the father role. And I hope y'all have a good celebration. You know what I'm saying? Same weekend, which, you know, doesn't happen often. Juneteenth, Father's Days, man. You know, I'm not gonna hold you, man. I'm getting outside this Friday.
Yeah. It's time to throw something on the grill for sure.
You know what I'm saying, man? Do you have any Juneteenth sentiments that you trying to toss out there?
Yeah. In regards to like just Juneteenth in particular, I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone watching understands the importance of Juneteenth. You know, this is 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation and the freeing of slaves, and you know, Texas didn't. Texas was the last holdout. I think one of the things that's like really kind of lost in that I want to highlight is that when that happened, there was a land purchase made in Texas specifically to celebrate Juneteenth. Shortly after that happened. And so I relate that to everybody who, you know, wants to do Juneteenth events. Maybe they're a little afraid of like what that looks like being outside, anything like that. Listen, if there's no other day that you're supposed to take up space, Juneteenth is the day. Okay. If your company does not acknowledge Juneteenth as a federal holiday or whatever the case, or however, or you don't have it off, take it off. Okay. If you are organizing a Juneteenth event, listen, it's very simple things that you need. All right. You need a grill. You need somebody to man that grill. You need some music, and you need to be outside. That's for everybody. Christians, Muslims, my Hebrew Israelites. You know what I'm saying? You know, I'm not gonna call y'all Jews, but you know, however, if you know, if you play on the spiritual side, if you play on the agnostic side, if you play on the atheist side, doesn't really matter. You need to be outside for Juneteenth. All right. Get something going, you know. It's important. Like you can also spend time organizing, you know, a slide deck, or you know, having speakers and acknowledging, you know, our civil rights activists, our leaders, our are people who've fallen, for the right to progress, progress us in those ways. You can be educational, read some books. I'm
Mhm.
currently doing a deep dive of Islam in Black America personally. So like I'm doing a deep dive for that during Juneteenth because unironically they are intertwined a bit. Yeah, I mean, shoot, Martin Luther King timed the march, the the Million Man March, the Poor Man's March, to coincide with Juneteenth and its celebration. So like, it's just if there's a day for you to be outside, there's a day for you to celebrate. That's the day. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's my little Juneteenth tidbit.
Yeah, man. I want to give a shout out to Instagram account called the Hair Doctor Company, right? Hair
Mhm.
Doctor Co. specifically. These are just simple facts for us to know about Juneteenth for all of us trying to process the why. If you get a European American asking you the why, man, and then it's like if that whole debate, just know Black Americans did try to leave. U.S. government denied the $1 billion in reparations from Libya to Africa to assist the debt owed to the descendants of transatlantic slaves. Louis Farrakhan was offered $1 billion from Libya as a leader. U.S. got in America, got in the middle of that. Louis Farrakhan was offered $1 billion from Libya leader, Muammar Gaddafi to assist in the Black American struggle, right?
Mhm.
We're aware of this. Okay. More Juneteenth facts, man. Marcus Garvey started planning a return to Africa by boat. You know what the FBI did for those situations, right? When you ask yourself why this is still a celebration for us Black Americans, we weren't integrating well with white Americans, so they went through and burned all of our 22 successful Black towns. The leader of Libya, Muammar, was later assassinated for offering Black Americans liberation. Every Black politician, educator, and leader was either assassinated or set up by the FBI like Assata Shakur. Martin Luther King did not die for his bullet wound. He actually died because he was suffocated by a pillow in a hospital. In the 1980s, Jesse Jackson got a law passed to finally label Black Americans as African Americans due to the inappropriate use of the N-word by non-Blacks. 40 acres and a mule was offered to enslaved Africans as a form of reparation, but was stopped due to President Andrew Jackson's fear of Black Americans becoming self-reliable. White Americans received reparations for loss of property due to Black Americans being freed from slavery. That's why Juneteenth is still important. Right? America's prisons were created for cheap labor. 60% of Black Americans are still currently in jail. 3 out of 5 Black men will be serving life. Christmas was enslaved Africans' favorite holiday due to slave masters not paying attention to several escapees. Black babies were used for alligator bait when they were caught. Juneteenth, man. The civil rights movement was to unite all descendants of African slaves trade, and the FBI created a division for $5 Indians. Africa did not sell their own people to America. They were not a part of the Berlin Conference. Their people were stolen. That's why Juneteenth is important. White America had cookbooks on how to cook Black slaves. They would wear slave skins as shoes, and Nat Turner was one of those people. Americans only wanted Blacks as entertainers due to Jim Crow law's success, which is still present today. We don't have much Black representation in government, but we have so many entertainers that look like us. And each bank, North, South, and Central of America, was built on stolen gold from Native Americans and Africans. This is why we remember Juneteenth. There were already African natives or Afro natives in Jamaica when Christopher Columbus arrived to America. All of this is important. All this is important. So when we talk about what Juneteenth is, to Bodega's point, that emancipation was something that was just a step in the continuance of us trying to just represent ourselves as everyday people. So the fact that Juneteenth is currently a federal holiday, let's continue to celebrate that appropriately and then celebrate with someone in the community, just at least one person. Just go touch bases, hug, and keep reminding ourselves to survive, stay alive, and if anything, continue to work on it, because our mere existence is a form of prosperity that they clearly despise. And that's a win in itself. And you don't need them to support that. We happy to see you, and we love you specifically. And I hope you love yourself, and we hope we receive the love back. Happy Juneteenth. Any closing statements for today's pod, Mr. Bodega?
Closing statements. This will be talked about at length in the sports podcast. But yeah, Knicks in 5.
Yeah.
What was y'all expecting? I'm confused here. Like, what you know what I'm saying? Like, what do you think? Like, what you thought was going on? Also, shout out to Carolina, Stanley Cup winners. Shout out to them. Boo, I guess. You know what I'm saying? Also, on a way more serious note, listen, when was the last time you got tested? Go get tested. If you feel like you're having a hard time reading, just pick up a book and use Google. You know what I mean? Like, very simple. Also, if you are making those videos and you not pulling those people to the side to tell them what words they are and what they mean afterwards, you're a loser. You're a loser. Okay? I just want you to know that you're a loser, and your contribution to society is nil. Okay. But yeah, other than that, I mean, shoot, man, it is what it is. Stay safe, stay dangerous, love your people, build community, go talk to your neighbors, stop cheating on that woman that you're cheating on. I'm talking to you, brother. You know what I'm saying? Not brother Ray. I'm talking to the brother, you look at me in the camera right now. Stop cheating on that woman. Yeah, keep it clean.
Shout out to the lob to the rim. I'm gonna pick up right there. Mystical, keep that nigga in jail.
Keep that nigga in prison.
And for black men, if you're caught up in this conversation as to why the bear and the man in the woods and which way the women are going, he himself showed in his history when he told us to help the bear, why we need to have these conversations.
The women are choosing the bear, nigga. Tighten up.
We need to have them conversations. Keep anyone like him in the jail, under the jail, as workers in the jail, prison, right? We're supporting all African teams. Again, reiterating that. Closing statements. We going into Juneteenth and the Father's Day. We're supporting all African teams in the World Cup. Yes. Our music is pop music, and shout out to us. Keep it a buck. Keep it a bean. You know where to find us at Keep It Clean, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram at The Keep It Clean Show. We appreciate y'all. We out of here.